Your companion Deacon the Druid slipped away to deliver a hag's eye to one Cyrus Bellevue in Castle Ravenloft, just before the vampire lord Strahd von Zarovich reappeared and demanded that Mariana and her coven of night hags release his love interest Irina Kolyanovich. Scolding you for your laxity, he warned you not to let her fall into danger again, then vanished once again in the mist that covers the land. Cahaya, the priest of angelic descent, and Elanor, the elven sorceress, sat up in their freshly dug graves and walked the land of the living again. But you noticed they both seem changed, oddly distracted, as if listening to some voice only they can hear. Your band of heroes then travelled to the walled city of Vallaki in search of a safe haven for the noble Irina Kolyanovich, victim of the vampire lord Strahd von Zarovich. A band of refugees was encamped outside the walls, begging for entry to the city, only to be refused by the city watch. Cahaya, the priest of angelic descent, defied the watch, threatening a bloody battle if they continued to ignore the suffering refugees. Upon learning that your party was here as an official escort to the late burgomaster's daughter, the captain of the watch capitulated and granted entry to your party and the 24 refugees you had championed. The city, you learned, was indeed safe from night creatures, but is under the oppressive rule of Baron Vargas Vallakovich, who metes out cruel punishments upon any of his subjects who dares the crime of spreading malicious unhappiness. Peasants stagger under the weight of iron humiliation masks, or waste away in stocks in the city square, while the Baron hosts mandatory festivals that he says keep the Dark Lord at bay. You sought shelter at the Blue Water Inn, the first place that seemed immune to the misery infecting the cursed kingdom of Barovia, and there met the innkeepers, the Martikov family. Bluto, the town drunk, raved about a giant bird in the skies over Lake Zarovich, while you shared a drink with the Wachter brothers, who expressed their deep hatred for Baron Vallakovich. You also spoke with Mercutio the Bard, who warned you to tread carefully, for a secret cult lurks everywhere in the city. Father Lucian Petrovich, deacon of the Church of St. Andrel, told you more, handing you a book that contains the cult's dark prayer to unholy forces. When you awakened, you were joined by Alice Autumnraw, a fiery-haired, bookish young sage with magical powers. Being a native of the city of Vallaki, she has acted as your guide, taking you to various locations in and around the city. Soon after, Deacon the Druid rejoined you as well, and you set off to visit the burgomaster. Baron Vargas Vallakovich is a thoroughly unpleasant man, pompous, loud, rude, and power-mad. He invited you to breakfast, where you met his brooding son, Victor, and learned there was a betrothal offered as an alliance between his house and that of the Wachter family, but that it was broken off, as Stella Wachter was too unstable and a poor match. Although the Baron hinted he would love to pair his moody son with the noble Irina, neither seemed to favour the idea, with Irina only interested in delivering the news of her father, the burgomaster of Barovia Village's death. The Baron then spoke to you of his suspicions that Lady Wachter is plotting an insurrection. He offered you 200 gold pieces to uncover evidence of her treachery, and said you would be given immunity if any harm should come to Lady Wachter and her family. You left, offering to consider his proposal, then visited Wachter House to find out what you could. The lady greeted you warmly and openly admitted her hatred for the Baron and his family, saying the Baron's cruel son drove her daughter Stella to madness, and that the Baron was a vicious, incompetent tyrant. She said his power lay in Izek Strasny, the commander of his city watch, and she offered you 200 gold pieces to kill him. If you succeed, she says she can take care of the rest. You again offered to consider her request, then left, discussing it among yourselves. On the way out the door, Alice slipped a valuable-looking tome under her robe. It discussed the legend of the Order of the Silver Dragon, and its two most famous knights, Godfrey Gwilym and the commander Vladimir Horngard. Remembering the gypsy woman's request that you deliver a toy to her niece Arabelle, you visited the famed Blinsky's Toys and met the eccentric shopkeeper and his tutu-wearing spider monkey. A normally jovial fellow, he seemed terrified at the sight of Irina mentioning "Zidollies" before regaining his composure. He said he had not seen Arabelle for several days, though she regularly came to visit his shop before. His creepy toys piqued your curiosity, and Alice cast Detect Magic, determining that some kind of alteration magic suffused both the shop and the toys, though the proprietor seemed unaware of it. As you left Blinsky's Toys, a group of street urchins clustered around the shop windows stopped you, asking if you had seen Arabelle, as she usually snuck into the village to play with them. You returned to the Blue Water Inn to see if anyone there knew anything about the disappearance of the gypsy girl, and were told that she often came to play with Brom and Bray, the innkeeper's sons. You were also told that their best customer Bluto had also not been seen for days. Since he fishes Lake Zarovich, you decided to look for him there, to see if there was a connection between the two disappearances. Sure enough, you found Bluto rowing out in the middle of the lake, but he was acting oddly furtive and had a squirming burlap sack in his hands that he was trying to wrestle over the side of his boat. Just as he tossed it over the side, you saw a young girl's head pop out, and she screamed for help. The druid transformed into a porpoise and dove into the water, but was unable to catch the sinking bag. Adric the hill dwarf barbarian swam valiantly, however, and managed to grab the bag before it sank to the bottom. The child you rescued said she was indeed Arabelle and seemed to have foreknowledge of your arrival. She thanked you for her rescue and said her father Luvash would pay you handsomely. Then her eyes glowed with a mysterious arcane light as, pointing at a stag across the water, she shouted, "There he is, the Mad Mage!" As you took Bluto the fisherman into custody, he seemed to suddenly come to his senses, as if he'd been in a trance, and seemed horrified at what he'd done, saying mysterious voices had whispered to him and driven him to commit the act. Together, you all visited the Vistani encampment, Alice leading the way. As you arrived, you saw an enigmatic figure that Alice explained was the Dusk Elf leader Casimir. She explained that he and his small band of elves were the last of a dying lineage, and that a traitor they called Blackheart had slaughtered all the womenfolk at the request of Strahd, dooming the race to extinction. She said that Blackheart, also known as Rahadin, is Strahd von Zarovich's lieutenant and right-hand man, the steward of Castle Ravenloft. You left Bluto in the custody of Aragorn, the Vistani camp leader, who said he will be judged according to tribal customs. The Vistani then welcomed you as heroes, inviting you to a great celebration. Luvash has promised to reward you in the morning.